A fisherman's calloused hands break bread in a simple home. No ornate cathedral, no golden chalices, no collection plates, just shared meals and radical love. This was Christianity in 33 AD. Fast forward 2,000 years and televangelists promise prosperity from private jets while congregants struggle to pay rent. Mega churches worth hundreds of millions dollars stand blocks away from homeless encampments. Something fundamental has changed. The transformation didn't happen overnight. It was a slow drift across centuries, each generation making small compromises that eventually led to something Jesus himself might not recognize. Tonight, we're going to trace that journey, from house churches to corporate empires, from radical equality to rigid hierarchies, from serving the poor to serving profit margins. In the year 312 AD, everything changed with a single battle. Emperor Constantine claimed he saw a cross in the sky before defeating Maxentius at the Milvian Bridge. Whether divine vision or political calculation, this moment would fundamentally alter Christianity forever. Within decades, the religion that began with outcasts and revolutionaries became the official faith of the Roman Empire. But let's start at the beginning. The earliest Christians were called followers of the way, not because they attended Sunday services, but because they lived radically different lives. Archaeological evidence from Dura Europos, the world's oldest known church building from 230 AD, reveals a simple house with one wall removed to accommodate about 50 people. No pulpit, no altar, no separation between clergy and congregation. Everyone sat together as equals. Jesus' economic teachings were unambiguous. "Sell everything you have and give to the poor," he told the rich young ruler. "You cannot serve both God and money." The early Christians took this seriously. The book of Acts describes believers selling their possessions and sharing everything in common. Archaeological evidence from first-century Christian communities shows shared living spaces and communal kitchens. Compare this to modern Christianity's relationship with wealth. According to Hartford Seminary's research, American churches collectively hold assets worth over $600 billion. The Catholic Church alone owns an estimated $10 to $15 billion in property worldwide. Joel Osteen's Lakewood Church generates over $70 million annually, while Osteen himself has a net worth exceeding $100 million. When Hurricane Harvey devastated Houston in 2017, Osteen initially refused to open his 16,800-seat church as a shelter, claiming it was inaccessible due to flooding, until photos emerged showing the church was perfectly dry. The prosperity gospel represents perhaps the starkest contradiction to Jesus' teachings. Kenneth Copeland, worth an estimated $300 million, owns multiple private jets and a $6.3 million lakefront mansion. When questioned about the jets, he explained he needed them to avoid getting in a long tube with a bunch of demons. Referring to commercial airline passengers, Jesus, who had nowhere to lay his head, would likely find this reasoning puzzling. Hey everyone, this is Professor Archive, and if you're learning something new tonight, hit that like button and let me know in the comments. Where are you watching from, and what time is it where you are? I'm always curious about our global community of history lovers. And if you really want to support deep dive content like this, consider leaving a super thanks. It genuinely helps us research and create these detailed documentaries. Now, the wealth accumulation wasn't the only dramatic shift. Early Christianity was remarkably egalitarian, especially regarding women's roles. The New Testament mentions numerous female leaders. Phoebe, described as a deacon in Romans 16. Priscilla, who instructed the scholar Apollos, and Junia, called outstanding among the apostles. Archaeological evidence from Roman catacombs shows women serving as priests and bishops in early Christian communities. This changed dramatically during the 4th century. The Council of Laodicea in 363 AD explicitly forbade women from approaching the altar. By 494 AD, Pope Gelasius was complaining about women celebrating Mass, indicating the practice was still occurring, but becoming controversial. The transformation was gradual but decisive. Women went from equal participants to silent observers. Today's gender restrictions would have baffled early Christians. The Catholic Church maintains that women cannot be ordained because Jesus chose only male apostles, conveniently ignoring that he also chose only Jewish men, yet the Church ordains Gentiles. The Southern Baptist Convention, America's largest Protestant denomination, declared in 2000 that wives should submit graciously to their husband's leadership. This wasn't Jesus' teaching, it was Paul's cultural context bleeding into doctrine. The shift from simplicity to spectacle tells another fascinating story. Jesus taught in fields, on hillsides, and in homes. The Sermon on the Mount wasn't delivered from a golden pulpit, but from a grassy slope. Early Christian worship reflected this simplicity. The Didache, a first-century Christian manual, describes communion using ordinary bread and wine, shared in regular homes. Constantine's conversion changed everything. By 350 AD, Christians were building elaborate basilicas modeled after Roman imperial architecture. The very design communicated hierarchy: priest elevated above congregation, ornate decorations suggesting divine majesty. The Byzantine Emperor Justinian's Hagia Sophia, completed in 537 AD, cost the equivalent of $320 million in today's money. Its message was clear: Christianity had become imperial. Modern megachurches continue this trajectory toward spectacle. Lakewood Church spent $105 million renovating a former NBA arena. Saddleback Church's main campus covers 120 acres with state-of-the-art video production facilities. Life.Church broadcast to 41 locations using holographic technology, allowing their pastor to appear simultaneously at multiple campuses. It's entertainment on a scale that would make Roman emperors envious. But perhaps the most profound drift involves Christianity's relationship with political power. Jesus explicitly rejected earthly kingdoms. When offered all the world's kingdoms by Satan, he refused. When crowds wanted to make him king, he escaped to the mountains. He told Pilate, "My kingdom is not of this world." His revolution was spiritual, not political. The early Christians maintained this separation. They were pacifists who refused military service, avoided government positions, and were often persecuted for their non-compliance with imperial expectations. The martyrdom of Polycarp, dating to 155 AD, describes Christians who chose death rather than pledge allegiance to Caesar. Constantine's conversion transformed Christianity from a persecuted minority to the empire's official religion. By 380 AD, Emperor Theodosius made Christianity mandatory. Suddenly, being Christian meant conforming to imperial expectations rather than challenging them. The transformation was so complete that by 416 AD, the Roman army allowed only Christians to serve, a direct reversal of early Christian pacifism. American Christianity's political entanglement would shock early believers. Jerry Falwell Sr. founded the Moral Majority in 1979, explicitly merging Christian faith with Republican politics. Pat Robertson ran for president in 1988, raising over $50 million from Christian donors. Today, white evangelical Christians vote Republican, at rates exceeding 80%, often prioritizing political loyalty over Christian principles. The 2016 election revealed this starkly. 81% of white evangelicals voted for Donald Trump, despite his multiple marriages, affair with an adult film actress, and recorded comments about sexually assaulting women. When confronted with this contradiction, evangelical leader Franklin Graham explained that Trump defended Christian values, apparently more important than actually embodying them. Jesus' teachings about divorce, adultery, and humility seemed secondary to political power. This political Christianity often contradicts Jesus' explicit teachings. Jesus said, "Blessed are the peacemakers," yet many Christian leaders enthusiastically support military interventions. He commanded, "Love your enemies." But Christian nationalism often promotes fear and hatred of immigrants, Muslims, and political opponents. The contradiction is jarring when viewed against first-century Christianity's radical inclusivity. The early church's approach to money and poverty offers another stark contrast. Jesus spent most of his ministry with society's outcasts. tax collectors, prostitutes, lepers, fishermen. His parables consistently sided with the poor against the rich. The early Christians took this seriously, establishing extensive welfare systems for widows, orphans, and the destitute. St. John Chrysostom, writing in 398 AD, captured early Christian economics. Not to enable the poor to share in our goods is to steal from them and deprive them of life. The goods we possess are not ours, but theirs. This wasn't metaphor. Early Christians literally shared possessions. Modern Christianity's relationship with wealth tells a different story. According to the Barna Group, American Christians give only 2.5% of their income to charity, less than during the Great Depression. Meanwhile, church buildings increasingly resemble luxury resorts. Southeast Christian Church in Louisville cost $79 million and includes a 2,000-car parking garage. World Changers Church International features a 8,500-seat auditorium with crystal chandeliers and marble floors. The health and wealth gospel explicitly contradicts Jesus' teachings about suffering and sacrifice. Preachers like Joyce Meyer, worth $8 million, and Creflo Dollar, who requested $65 million for a private jet, promise financial prosperity for faithful giving. This theology would have horrified early Christians, who expected persecution and poverty as signs of faithfulness. Jesus' teachings about humility have been similarly abandoned. He washed his disciples' feet, chose a donkey instead of a horse for his Jerusalem entry, and warned against seeking honor and recognition. Early Christian leaders followed this example. St. Francis of Assisi, though from a wealthy family, chose radical poverty and served lepers. Modern Christian celebrity culture operates on opposite principles. Prominent pastors become brands, selling books, merchandise, and speaking tours. Rick Warren's Purpose-Driven Life sold over 50 million copies, making him enormously wealthy while promoting spiritual fulfillment. Joel Osteen's books regularly top bestseller lists, and his sermons are broadcast to over 100 countries. The transformation from humble servant to international celebrity would have confused first-century believers. The architectural evolution tells its own story. Early Christians met in homes because they were few in number and often persecuted. By the 4th century, basilicas appeared, large, ornate buildings designed to impress. Medieval cathedrals reached even greater heights, literally and figuratively. Notre Dame de Paris took nearly 200 years to complete and cost the equivalent of billions in today's money. Modern megachurches continue this trajectory. Crystal Cathedral cost $18 million in 1980, $55 million today, and featured 10,000 windows and a 185-foot tower. When it went bankrupt in 2010, the Catholic Church purchased it for $57.5 million. The irony was palpable. A church built on prosperity gospel principles being sold to pay creditors. Some statistics reveal the scope of this transformation. According to Hartford Seminary, the average American megachurch budget exceeds $6.5 million annually. These churches employ professional marketing teams, hire celebrity architects, and operate like corporations with CEOs instead of pastors. The largest, Lakewood Church, operates with an annual budget approaching $100 million. Meanwhile, homelessness persists outside these magnificent buildings. Los Angeles County has over 69,000 homeless individuals, many living within sight of churches worth hundreds of millions. The contrast would have appalled early Christians, who specifically cared for society's most vulnerable. The theological drift extends beyond economics and politics to fundamental questions about salvation and judgment. Jesus consistently emphasized love, mercy, and forgiveness. His harshest words were reserved for religious hypocrites, not social outcasts. He ate with sinners, defended adulterers, and promised paradise to criminals. Modern Christianity often inverts these priorities. Certain denominations focus intensely on sexual morality while ignoring economic justice. They condemn homosexuality based on isolated biblical verses while ignoring hundreds of passages about caring for the poor. This selective interpretation would have puzzled early Christians, who prioritized love over legalism. The evangelical obsession with personal salvation also differs from Jesus' focus on community transformation. Early Christians understood salvation as both individual and collective, the kingdom of heaven manifesting on earth through transformed relationships. They established hospitals, schools, and welfare systems as expressions of their faith. Modern individualistic Christianity reduces salvation to personal fire insurance, avoiding hell while maintaining comfortable lifestyles. This theology supports capitalism by encouraging individual spiritual pursuits while discouraging collective action for social justice. It's convenient for wealthy donors but contradicts Jesus' emphasis on systemic change. The historical evidence for this drift is overwhelming. The Constantinian shift, documented in numerous sources, transformed Christianity from countercultural movement to imperial religion. Medieval church wealth and political power are extensively recorded. Modern church financial statements reveal unprecedented accumulation of resources. What makes this drift particularly tragic is how it undermines Christianity's most powerful teachings. Jesus' message of radical love, economic justice, and spiritual transformation could address many contemporary problems. Instead, much of modern Christianity has become part of the problem, blessing inequality, supporting violence, and prioritizing buildings over people. Some Christians recognize this contradiction and are working to recover authentic faith. Liberation theology emphasizes Jesus' concern for the oppressed. Progressive Christianity attempts to separate faith from partisan politics. Simple church movements return to house church models. These efforts face resistance from established institutions but represent hope for renewal. The drift from Jesus' teachings isn't complete or irreversible. Individual Christians and communities worldwide still embody his radical message. They feed the hungry, shelter the homeless, and challenge injustice, often in opposition to wealthy church institutions. Their witness proves that authentic Christianity survives despite institutional corruption. What would Jesus think of modern Christianity? His response to the temple money changers suggests he wouldn't be pleased with prosperity preachers and megachurch CEOs. His teachings about humility, service, and sacrifice directly contradict celebrity pastor culture. His concern for the poor challenges every dollar spent on luxury church buildings while people suffer outside. Perhaps most importantly, Jesus' kingdom vision, a world transformed by love, justice, and mercy, remains unrealized not because it's impossible, but because his followers have often pursued earthly kingdoms instead. The gap between his teachings and modern church practice represents not just historical curiosity, but profound spiritual crisis. The fisherman's simple meal shared with outcasts seems impossibly distant from today's religious empires. Yet that vision of radical equality, economic justice, and transformative love remains as relevant as ever. The question isn't whether Christianity has drifted from its origins. The evidence is overwhelming. The question is whether it can find its way back. As you reflect on this journey through 2 millennia of change, ask yourself, what would a church look like that actually followed Jesus' teachings? What would Christianity become if it prioritized the poor over the powerful, service over spectacle, love over judgment? The answers might surprise you, and they might just change the world. If this deep dive into religious history opened your eyes to something new, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. And remember, if you appreciate this kind of detailed research and storytelling, hitting that super thanks button really helps us continue producing these documentaries. Until next time, keep questioning, keep learning, and keep seeking truth wherever it leads.